Why developers deleted these Call of Duty maps. For every legendary map burned into our brains. Nuka Town, Rust, Terminal. There's a Ghost. A map that was built, played on by developers, and then secretly buried. But these weren't just forgotten, they were deleted. And the reasons why are stranger, and sometimes more controversial, than you'd ever guess. Today, we're on a digital archaeological dig, uncovering the remains of maps that were never meant to see the light of day. From last-minute cuts to complete transformations, these are the stories of Call of Duty's lost battlegrounds. Let's start where modern Call of Duty really began, COD 4. We all remember the iconic maps that came with the game, and the variety map pack that gave us classics like Chinatown and Broadcast. But what if I told you that map pack was supposed to be even bigger? Deep in the game's files, there's evidence like loading screens and data pointing to two other maps that were well into development, Favela and Invasion. That's right, two of Modern Warfare 2's most beloved maps were almost certainly built for Call of Duty for first. The strong community theory is that they were intended for the first major DLC, but got cut before release. Why? While there's no official statement, it likely came down to development triage. Maybe they weren't polished enough for the deadline, or perhaps Activision saw a bigger opportunity in saving them for a full-blown sequel. This wasn't a case of them being broken, it was strategic. The assets were shelved, polished up, and became cornerstone maps for Modern Warfare 2 a couple of years later. It's a fascinating peek behind the curtain of game development. New content isn't always built from scratch. Sometimes, the best ideas are just sitting on a hard drive, waiting for their moment. But that's not all for COD 4. Early builds of the game contained a graveyard of other multiplayer ideas. There were night mode variants of existing maps, like City Streets Night, Overgrown Night, and Strike Night. While that might sound simple, creating balanced night maps with good visibility is a massive task. They were probably cut due to the time and resources it would take to essentially remix an existing map. Other files point to even bigger plans, like a map called Hill, based on the unforgettable campaign mission, Heat. Taking campaign missions to multiplayer is common practice, but for whatever reason, Hill just didn't make it, likely due to balancing challenges, or its sheer size. If Call of Duty 4 was the blueprint, Modern Warfare 2 was the summer blockbuster. Its maps are legendary, but just like its predecessor, MW2 has its own collection of lost battlegrounds, maps cut so late in development they've become myths in the modding community. The most famous of these is Oil Rig. Based on the campaign mission, The Only Easy Day Was Yesterday, this map was a tight, multi-level playground perfect for close quarters chaos. It was so far along that it still exists in the game's code, and is even playable on PC through mods, proving it was a nearly finished space. So why was it cut? The leading theory is it was just too complex or had balancing issues they couldn't fix in time. Its verticality and tight corners might have created frustrating choke points. It was a casualty of quality control, a map sacrifice to make sure the rest of the multiplayer experience was rock solid. Then there's Vertigo, a map name that exists in the files, but has almost no visual evidence to go with it. The name alone suggests a map built around extreme heights, similar to High Rise. One popular fan theory is that it was scrapped for being too similar to High Rise, making it redundant. Another idea is that it was conceptually repurposed into the map Free Fall in Call of Duty Ghosts, which featured a dynamically collapsing skyscraper. Even more interesting is the cut map known simply as Gulag. We all know the Gulag from the campaign and, of course, from Warzone, but it was originally planned as a standard 6v6 multiplayer map for Modern Warfare 2. Fan recreations, made by porting the single-player area, show what it could have been, a claustrophobic arena perfect for shotgun and SMG fights. It was likely cut because the space, designed for a dramatic 1v1 in the story, just didn't translate well to the chaos of a full team match. These MW2 maps weren't deleted because they were bad ideas. They were ambitious concepts that were just a few steps from the finish line, representing the razor-thin margins of game development. We're just getting started here. The stories behind these maps only get stranger. If you're enjoying this deep dive into Call of Duty's secret history, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out, and you won't want to miss what's coming up next. Now let's jump to the Black Ops era, and one of the most interesting stories of a map's transformation. You remember the Zombies map 5, right? The one where you play as JFK, Nixon, McNamara, and Castro fighting zombies in the Pentagon. It was wild, unique, and incredibly memorable. But what if I told you it was never meant to be a zombies map? Strong evidence and long-standing community rumors suggest the Pentagon was originally designed as a standard multiplayer map for Black Ops. If you mentally strip away the zombies, the barriers, and the mystery box, the layout feels just like a classic competitive map. It has distinct sections, the war room, labs, offices, all connected by tight corridors and multiple floors, with elevators as dynamic traversal points. So what happened? The most likely scenario is that during development, Treyarch realized the map's complex, close quarters design was actually a much better fit for the co-op survival of zombies than for fast-paced multiplayer. The tight hallways that might have been frustrating in team deathmatch became perfect choke points for holding off a horde. The elevators, a potential nightmare for multiplayer flow, became a desperate escape route. A decision was made to pivot. The multiplayer map was scrapped and the environment was repurposed into 5. This wasn't a failure, it was a stroke of design genius. It shows developers recognizing an asset wasn't working in one context and having the vision to see its potential elsewhere. The Pentagon multiplayer map had to be deleted so the iconic zombies, Map 5, could be born. Call of Duty World at War is remembered for its grit, its brutality, and for giving birth to zombies. But behind the scenes, its development was a battlefield of its own, with a shocking number of multiplayer maps left on the cutting room floor. While other games might have a few famous cut maps, files for World at War suggest nearly a dozen concepts were cancelled before release. Digging through the game's files reveals a treasure trove of abandoned ideas. There were maps like Carrier and Docks, which seem to have been either early test environments, or were later reworked into other maps like Subpens. Another map, Subway, was eventually refined and scaled down to become the DLC map, Station, which suggests developers were still dialing in the ideal map size for the game's pace. Some maps were clearly pulled from the campaign, like Atoll, but were likely cut because they felt too similar to existing maps like Mackin. Then you have the complete mysteries, maps known only by their file names, Broadside, Casino, Lagoon, and Struggle. We have no images, just names that hint at what could have been. Another map called Nightfire was reportedly just left unfinished due to time constraints, a common fate for content that isn't essential for launch. But maybe the most fascinating find is a map file simply called Dog Test. As the name implies, it was a simple, functional space developers used to test the AI and pathfinding of the attack dogs, a new and controversial killstreak at the time. It was never meant for players, but it's a cool peek behind the curtain. The sheer volume of cut maps from World at War paints a picture of a development process that was all about experimentation and ruthless decisions. Treyarch was throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. For every castle or upheaval that made it in, several other ideas were abandoned along the way. From maps held back for a sequel, to ambitious concepts that were just too broken to ship, and multiplayer arenas reborn as zombie nightmares. The stories of these deleted maps are more than just trivia. They're a window into the messy, complicated, and fascinating process of making games. They show us that for every map we've spent hundreds of hours mastering, there's a ghost in the machine, an idea that didn't quite make it. These digital graveyards are a reminder that the polished final games we play are built on a foundation of deleted files, abandoned concepts, and tough decisions. The developers didn't just build the Call of Duty we know, they also had to bury the one we were never supposed to see. So, what do you think? Which of these deleted maps do you wish you could have played the most? An official version of Oil Rig in Modern Warfare 2? Or maybe a multiplayer battle in the Pentagon? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into gaming's greatest mysteries, make sure you're subscribed. Thanks for watching.